Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced and welcome to another video on data modeling. Again, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, and follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. But we're going to be talking about different types of modeling relationships and just kind of how they would look like when you model them in your data sets. Okay, so first off, we have one-to-one relationships. Okay, so this basically, the way you want to think about a relationship is you want to express it in a sentence before you model it. And it actually goes for anything. You want to think about it not broken down as a data model, just think about it in general, and then you abstract it. Okay, if you try to go abstraction first, you'll find that it's going to be much more difficult to kind of get used to thinking in this way. But if I say, okay, every person can have one dog. So let's just, again, each of these scenarios will be using person and dog. And every dog can have one person. So in that case, well, if every person can have one dog, so here's my person table made up of an ID field, which is a primary key. Again, a primary key is always the unique identifier of the thing in the same way that I have a social security number that uniquely identifies me. Okay, because I might have two Bobs and there may be two different people, but if I give them a separate number, I can distinguish between the two. So there's my primary key. There's the name of my people. And then there's dog ID. Dog ID is my foreign key field. The idea is that it does still refer to a unique identifier, but the unique identifier matches the data in a foreign data set. In this case, the dog table. Okay. So in this case, basically what happens is we have Bob, Susie, James. Okay. And Bob owns dog 1. So I can go over here to the dog, see who's dog 1. That's Clifford. And I can see that Clifford, in the same case, can only be owned by one person. So there's a field identifying that person. And this is fine. But if there's a one-to-one relationship, so you know these two things are ever going to be connected to each other, in this case, it might make sense to put them all in one person table, and the dog is just an aspect of that person. Just because, again, it'll show up nowhere else. Okay. So if I go here, you see here, Clifford's only going to be owned by Bob, and Bob's only going to own Clifford. So in that case, this might be sufficient, and I save myself the dog ID field, I save myself the dog's ID field, and I save myself this person ID field. So I've trimmed down 3 columns, which again, may or may not make sense depending on the situation. But you can see this is how you model a one-to-one relationship. Okay, they uniquely identify each other. Okay, now there's also a many-to-one relationship. Every person can have many dogs, but each dog can only have one person. Okay, so in this case, we don't want the person to have a dog ID field because they might have more than one dog. So we can't really specify one ID of one dog. Okay, so typically the way this would work is that we could have, maybe we'll add another, 3 dogs. So we'll have Fluffy, Biff, and Scratchy. Okay, and they are also owned by 1, 2, and 3. So if I'm wondering who are Bob's dogs, well, I know that Bob is person number 1, so then I can go in here and search the dog table for every dog that is owned by person 1, which would be Clifford and Fluffy. So, okay, Bob owns Clifford and Fluffy. And I can have as many dogs that match up with Bob, but again, every dog is only going to match up with sort of one owner. Okay, so that's generally what's going to happen in a one-to-many relationship. So only one of the 2 tables will have the foreign key field, the one that actually only has the one that is the one, in the sense that they can only have one of the other thing. So in that case, they need to identify who's that one. Okay, the thing that can have many doesn't get a foreign key field. We'll just match them up with the ID in the other table. Okay, and then we have our many-to-many relationship. Many-to-many. So in this case, every person can have many dogs, and each dog can have many persons. Okay, so in this case, we might have, add 3 more people, 4, 5, 6. John, Jose, Sergey. Why not? Okay. But in this case, what's going to happen is that neither of them are going to have a foreign key field because they both can have many. Okay, so generally in this situation where they can have many possible sort of permutations of this, okay, what you do then is you create a many-to-many sort of relationship table. So this requires like a third model. Okay, call it like person dog. Okay, and essentially what this is going to have a relationship, and then for each relationship or for each entry, we have one person ID and one dog ID. Okay, so in this situation, any particular pairing is possible. Okay, so in this case, maybe Clifford, let's say Clifford is owned by Bob and Susie. Okay, so the dog is 1 and is owned by Bob and Susie. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then maybe Spot and Fluffy are owned by both James. Or let's say Scooby is owned by Sergey. Okay, so it'll be Sergey is a person and the dog is Scooby. You get the idea, but the idea is I can have as many entries here for any individual dog. As you can see here, Clifford has 2 entries. Okay, and maybe Bob also owns Fluffy. Okay, so Bob owns Fluffy, but separately from Susie. Okay, so I can capture that accurately here. I can capture every piece of information. Okay, and this can also be referred to sort of as a fact table. This captures the reality of things, and then these are the dimensions that actually fill in these pieces of data. And I would join all this together in a database to create like sort of the full data set. Okay, cool. Okay, so that is the concept of sort of relationships in data modeling. Okay, so and how you can model one-to-one, many-to-one, and a many-to-many. At the end of the day, it's just anytime you have 2 things that sort of relate to each other, you want to talk through that relationship, and then you can kind of construct the right models to reflect that relationship. So I'll see y'all later. Have a great one. Ciao.